Once we have successfully created our OpenStreetMap profile, we are ready to select a humanitarian mapping project in the Hot Tasking Manager. Log into your profile at tasks.hotosm.org. To browse the various projects happening around the world, click on Explore Projects at the top of the Tasking Manager. This page will allow us to search for a specific project, select projects according to location or difficulty level, and check status updates of projects in progress to find out just how complete a project is. Look below the description at the thin bar. If the bar is mostly red, then it is almost done. If the bar contains mostly light gray, then there is still more to be mapped. Keep your eye out for these light gray bars. In the upper left-hand corner, we have a number of options to limit our choices. Because we are just starting out, we should just toggle the difficulty level to beginner mapper. Now, only beginning projects will show. We can also toggle the projects based on the types of features that we would like to make, including roads, buildings, waterways, and so on. Finally, we can sort our projects based on their urgency or level of newness. I am just going to select the beginner mapper option. When we scroll through, we will notice that only beginner projects are available at varying levels of completion. I'm going to select one with the least number of contributions, number 9780, where the bar is mostly light gray colored. To open the project, just click on the heading. That will bring us to a page which will give us more information about the project and procedures required to complete the task. Read this information carefully. It is very important that you read it so that you do not get lost. Furthermore, you may not be qualified to participate in certain projects because of their difficulty level, or if the project is exclusive to members of a single organization. Next to the description, we will find an interactive map overview of the project. When we click Zoom to Tasks, that will bring us to the grid of the project. Now, every project contains a grid like this. Creating a grid allows project managers to complete the task piece by piece. Multiple contributors can collaborate on the same project at the same time by working in different parts of the grid. When we are working in one section, that section becomes locked, meaning that no other users can access it. There are two ways we can contribute to a project. We can either add data, or we can validate data that other mappers have already contributed to make sure that the task was completed correctly. Let's say that we feel good about the instructions and want to contribute towards this project. In the lower right-hand corner, select Contribute. When we do this, we receive more information about the project. The interactive map contains a legend. Sections are gridded and colored according to level of completeness, whether it's available for mapping, ready for validation, more mapping needed, finished, unavailable, priority areas, or locked. If there's a specific part of the project that you would like to work in, I recommend selecting a part of the grid that is transparent, meaning that it's available for mapping. Any areas that are colored blue mean that they are ready for validation. I wouldn't start validating tasks quite yet, perhaps when we start to garner more experience. To select a task, we can either select Map a Task in the lower right-hand corner, or we can go in and click on one of these grids. And then in the lower right-hand corner, that gives us the option to map a selected task. Once that happens, a splash screen emerges asking if we want to take a walkthrough of how to create points, lines, and areas. I recommend that every beginner mapper takes this very brief tutorial before mapping. And once we feel comfortable creating these features, we can begin mapping. The section we will work in has a purple box surrounding it. To the right of the interactive map are the specific task information instructions, and history of contributions to that section. Sometimes we might come across sections that are already mapped, or the imagery is simply too poor for us to see. If that is the case, we can fill in the task status and submit that task. The instructions provide us with an overview of what we are asked to do. In this case, we are just being asked to map buildings where we see them on the imagery. So let's zoom in on this particular part of the grid. We can click and mouse over to see different parts of the grid. When we see a building, select the area option in the upper part of the map. That will allow us to draw a polygon around the building. We can zoom in for a closer look. We can then start to create our map feature by clicking once on each one of the corners of that building and double-click when we have completed it. If we right-click on the feature, we have the option to turn that polygon into a circle. If we don't like that option, we can just go up to the upper right-hand corner where it says Undo, and we can select that, and it'll bring us back to the original box. If you're a perfectionist like I am, you'll notice that this doesn't contain perfect right angles. If we right-click, we can select Square, which adjusts our feature to become more square-like with perfect 90-degree right angles. Or if we just don't like our feature and we want to start over again, we can right-click once again and select Delete. So let's draw this area once again. Double-click to finish. Square it. And once we do this, our job isn't done yet. We still need to add information about the feature that we mapped. On the left-hand side is a space where we can add this info. Select the feature type to give this feature more context. The instructions in this project state that we just need to identify this as a building. So we'll just select building. We'll click on that. Some optional fields will come up in certain projects that will become more helpful if we know more about the place's address, the height of that building, and so on. But for this particular project, we don't really need to do much about that. So once we fill in all the necessary information, we're ready to move on to the next feature. Okay, so I've made a number of edits here. There were a couple of times where I had to delete what I had made because I didn't really like it. In each case, I right-clicked and made sure that my features had right angles, just to give those features a much neater look. In a couple of occasions, I forgot to select the attribute for that feature, for that area. So I had to go back again, select that feature, and identify it as a building. So you'll find that you might end up having to go back and retrace your steps every now and then, but that's okay. And when we decide that we're done mapping, we need to do two things. First, we need to save our work. In the upper right-hand corner, there is this Save button. It'll let us know of how many edits that we've made. And so I'm going to select this. And we have the opportunity to have someone else review our edits, just in case we don't feel too confident in what we're doing. So let's check that box. And then when we're done, we can upload that onto OpenStreetMap. And those edits that we just made will go live and can be used for this particular humanitarian mapping project. After that, we can go on and log out by going to completion and select another task. You might find this a little bit frustrating at first, but please just be patient and consult the many resources available to you online. Happy mapping, everybody!